Let's give a warm library welcome for Corey Begalka.
Thank you, Sarah. That was a warm library welcome. You're warmer already. As Sarah pointed out, I am a forest comber, a wood comber. A lot of people don't know what that is because there's never been one before. But I started out several years ago, contacted by the Chicago Botanic Garden to gather seeds for them. And there was probably about 300 different species of plants and trees and shrubs on the list. So I ended up combing throughout the woods, throughout the Fox Valley region and beyond to try to find these. And what happened was I found a lot of invasives encroaching on their area, and a lot of times they were no longer there where they once might have been. And so I started to work in the forest to clear out invasives, to make room for these native plants, and to start rebuilding the ecology of the plants by these repairing forests. That's basically what they are. Forests that are associated with rivers and lakes and creeks, things like that, to increase their biodiversity again, which makes a stronger ecosystem. And that's basically what a woodcomber does. My aim is to increase the health of the forest of the riparian woods in this area. I have a degree in zoology from Southern Illinois. I have an associate's degree in biological sciences from our own Elgin Community College, where my mentor over there was Robert Steinbach, which gave me an excellent botany background to be hired by the Chicago Botanic Garden as a subcontractor to do the seed collecting. So, how many people hate the winter? Good, kindred spirits. You're so. Sarah? How many people get out in the winter and do some hiking around? Okay, great. And how many people are looking for, hi Mary Alice, hi Karen Sherman. How many people just are looking for a new place to hike? Okay, all right. Well, let's move on. One of the things that I like about the winter hiking is we're just being outside in winter. I'm re-engaging with nature. Let's see, do I got this right? As Aristotle said, to appreciate the beauty of a snowflake, it is necessary to stand out in the cold. We see nothing inside. People often dread the winter because it's the dark time, the cold, serious dark time. It's hard to find somebody famous to say something good about the winter and the beauty of winter. John Burroughs says, "He who marvels at the beauty of the world in summer will find equal cause for wonder and admiration in winter," which is so true to many of you who've been out there and see it. There's almost more stuff to see and do in the winter than there is in the summer. Yeah, most writers talk about enduring these long times when it should be a celebration, especially in these dark times. Stay engaged in nature. So why winter hike? The beauty of winter, right? And it's quieter. You know why it's quieter? There's fewer people. And because there's fewer people, there's more wildlife. It's great for birding. And tracking. You can actually see that, well, there's actually mink out here, or there's raccoons, or there's turkey, or great blue heron, which I've seen great blue heron tracks. Great blue heron normally aren't here this time of year, they migrate. But for some reason, they're sticking around. So it enables us to reach difficult places that we normally couldn't get to. For ideas like poison ivy, maybe black raspberry, maybe we couldn't see them because of all the greenery, all the buckthorn and honeysuckle and crap we like to take out. But when there's snow and the leaves are off the trees, we can see much more of the topography of the land, which makes it more fun because we can explore those things. And there's no bugs. know, I don't know anybody who misses bugs, but I don't mind. Also, mental health. This is probably one of the most important things for some of us to get out, because it does alleviate the symptoms of the seasonal affective disorder. Lessens anxiety, reduces stress, promotes well-being, improves brain's cognitive functioning via the multisensory stimulation. That means like you're out there and you're crunching the snow underneath your foot, and the way that feels, the way it feels, the cold, or the seeing a cardinal sit in a snow-covered tree, and that's stimulating, visually stimulating. It all helps with our brain's cognitive function, even the cold itself. So when we engage in here, it helps relieve all that stress that might be bothering us, that it's generated by our everyday world, from our jobs, from TikTok, I shouldn't say TikTok, but all these other things that cause us for our brains to start spinning unnecessarily. Thoreau said, take long walks in stormy weather or through deep snows in the fields and woods if you would keep your spirits up. Deal with brute nature. Be cold, hungry, and weary. Thoreau. And I think what Thoreau's pointing out here is, I was a child of the 60s, I don't know about you guys, but we played in the snow all winter long. And there was nothing like coming home after playing in the snow all day and peeling off those clothes, seeing the steam come up, throwing your mittens on the radiator, your boots under the radiator, and relaxing with a nice cup of soup or something and a grilled cheese sandwich. So being cold, hungry, and weary, that makes all this worthwhile after we're done spending time in it. Yeah, when I grew up, I remember that river would freeze in November. It didn't thaw till like March. And the streets were like canyons of snow, because it would never get really warm enough to melt it all the time, and it snowed 2 or 3 times a week. The world has changed a lot those times. Another thing is feel a spiritual sense of oneness with nature, especially if you're by yourself. It's a good time to meditate and just be where you are. The beauty is the sun goes down, a hoarfrost on some branches, and just being in that moment where you are is a meditative process. Even the hike itself can be a meditative process. Henry Thoreau, John Muir hated the word hike. He hated it. He said it should be sauntering. We should be sauntering through the woods, sauntering up a mountain, because saunter is it's a French phrase that saunterers used to go on pilgrimages to the Holy Land, and they'd saunter through the villages. And he thinks nature is a holy experience. So every step should be a holy experience, and this whole thing should be spiritual, which I have a tendency to agree with. So, winter hiking is good for your physical health. It certainly is. It certainly is. Not like shoveling snow is good for your health. It helps with cardiovascular endurance. It increases your circulation, helps strengthen muscles, improve stamina. Definitely burns calories, aids in balance and coordination, is maybe on icy surfaces and snow, and it helps with better sleep, because you're exposing yourself to natural sunlight and the exercise, and it helps you regulate your own circadian rhythm. But you see, I put a caution on there. If you have a lung condition, cold weather really isn't good for you to be out in. And you should use a lot of precautions. If you're going to go out, don't be out long. On this note, I have had a heart attack with quadruple bypass surgery. I know that doesn't sound like it's very good for you. I've been doing this all my life. A heart attack was caused by untreated diabetes. I'm diabetic. So what happened was, because I do hike a lot, I work in the woods because I'm a woodcomber, forest comber, every day, all throughout the year. My heart developed collateral arteries. So as my regular arteries were getting clogged, my heart, it's kind of an evolutionary throwback, grew arteries along the side of it. So when I was having my heart attack, I didn't drop dead. It would have been a widowmaker, but I had these arteries that kept me alive. And that's after keeping my feet moving throughout the year and in the wintertime. As a matter of fact, it was one of my clients that said, "I think you're having a heart attack." I said, "What do you know?" She goes, "I'm a doctor." Come to my office. So she was the one who led me onto it, and I found out, oh, I'm having a heart attack these past 5 days. So, but definitely the hiking helped me grow these arteries. See the woodland or prairie in the spring, summer, and fall in a new light, revealing topography and allowing you to explore places you can't get to any other time of year. And I throw this on there. I mean, you couldn't see these ravines, the top of these ravines in the summertime. They're just too covered up by trees and shrubs and things like that. But you can see them very well in the winter, and you can go and get down in there and trudge. I don't want to say saunter, but you can trudge up and down there, and it feels pretty good. Some of the things, and I put a disclaimer on this, a lot of my hiking is done on the river. There's islands there that you can explore, and I have a kayak, I go out there, but there's nothing like it in the winter. To walk the ice, it's almost like I pretend like I'm in the path of a glacier, a receding glacier. And some of these islands, I found things on that, frankly surprised me a little. Sometimes a geocache or a little outhouse, and I'm like, what, really? So people used to live on them. And I'm talking about the islands in between South Elgin and St. Charles. But you can only get to them at a certain time of year on the ice. The wildlife, obviously, one of the best things about hiking in the wintertime is the amount of wildlife you see. The animals still need food. They're still out there doing their thing. Let's see. These guys, cedar waxwings, they're a migratory bird. They shouldn't be here. But they're eating these guys, which is honeysuckle, bush honeysuckle. One of our non-native plants here that's taken over in a place where maybe hazelnuts once were, or spice bush, or other native things. But they're finding a meal here, so they don't really have to go south. Our winters aren't as brutal as they were back when I was a kid. But you can see the animals clear. The Cooper's hawk, the barred owl, the great horned owl, eagles, woodpeckers. They stick right up, but so do the mammals. And some of these guys you can actually track to where they were. And this is a short list of the birds and the mammals that I've seen. If you hike in a prairie, you might see prairie voles, or shrews, or mice. You can see mink. I've seen mink in the wintertime hopping around. There's a lot of cool stuff if you just get out there. And there's a lot more of it because it's winter and people aren't out, which are the only thing I worry about when I'm out there. But plenty of wildlife. And this is another important thing. Be where you are and not worried about the cold. If we focus too much on the cold, we're not being where we are. You can say, I'm right where I am, but I'm cold. But if we think about it, it becomes a psychological thing. I spent time in the woods. That's my deer hanging up over there. And I'll just take off all my, not all my clothes, but I'll take off my jacket. I get kind of warm in my pack, and I'll just walk around. Sometimes I'll have some tea. Just stand out in the woods with tea. I like the woods, and I'll talk a little bit more about the difference of some of these places. So when's a good time to go? Well, obviously any time, but not during dangerous conditions like a blizzard or sub-zero temps. For you guys, for me, I go for the sub-zero temps. I camp and stuff like this, so it's for me. My body's acclimated to the cold. Where a lot of people, it takes a while. As a matter of fact, the only place I ever almost died due to weather was when I lived in Tucson, Arizona for 7 months. I almost died, well, literally, because I got valley fever and almost died. So, but I couldn't wait to get back to the cold. I was so afraid that I acclimated to the heat so much that my body wouldn't readjust to the cold. But it did, and I'm good. I'm still here. This is the part that's important, because we want to be comfortable, and we don't want to be cold. We can feel cold, but we don't want to be cold, especially with our extremities. And this is how I do it. I start out with the base layer, polypropylene or smart wool, merino wool. That's what this is right here. I got 2 layers of merino wool on here, 100%. What it does is it wicks away moisture. It allows my skin to breathe, and it's a great insulator. You know, in the old days we used cotton. We used big old cotton thermal shirts that were heavier. That's no good because they get soaked with sweat, and then when that wind blows through your clothes and hits that's how people get sick. And the same with the other stuff too. So long underwear, merino wool or polypropylene. This stuff is also lighter weight than some of the heavy cotton stuff, so you're not carrying as much weight. Now the mid layer, after the base layer, you can use a flannel, sweater, a light sweater or fleece. I have this. Sometimes I'll just have a pullover, something I can take off, and that's all synthetic, but it's super lightweight. It allows my skin to breathe while letting moisture escape. And then a heavier shell jacket, wind and water resistant with hood. I can go with this. This is relatively light, but it's water resistant, but it blocks the wind. And that's I mean, that's one of the big secrets about this. If you can block the wind out, because it's really windy in the wintertime, you can keep yourself warm. If you just have enough layers on, block the wind, you keep yourself warm. And that's true of snow pants too. It can be 15 below. If I just have long underwear on a pair of smart wool with ski pants, like you can't really see it, but I have them on there, wind does not cut through that. It's stopped immediately, and I stay dry, and I can sweat, and the sweat will come out through the pants. And there's vents in there. You can unzip right back here and right there. And that's what I just talked about, snow pants. If you're gonna wear pants like these, one of the things you'll notice is the wind flies right up your foot, right here. The wind will blow right up there, and then your leg will get cold either way. That's no fun. So I will wear gaiters sometimes, depending on the wind. These just go right over your pant legs and your boots. They keep the snow out, but they also keep the wind from rushing up against there. It keeps debris out of your laces. You can spray them. You can wear these any time of year. It doesn't matter. You can spray them with tick repellent when you go hiking in the summertime. And once again, if I get those full of snow, I just peel them off before I get into the car and chuck them in the trunk. And my pants are dry. The tops of my shoes are dry, and I can carry on. Wool socks, with or without toe warmers. Wool socks are really, for me, important. My toes, my feet staying warm It didn't seem to matter when I was a kid, because they would be like ice blocks by the time I got home. But I was, being where I was doing so many other times. As I got older, I want warmer feet. So I use like these toe warmers right here. You can get these anywhere. They're good for 8 hours. I throw them in. I throw them on the bottoms of my wool socks. Sometimes I'll double up on the socks. These keep me warm all day, even if I don't have insulated boots. Even if I don't have insulated boots. And that's the next thing. Good hiking / winter boots. Something that goes over your ankle. It's good if it's waterproof. Doesn't have to be. It's good if it's insulated. Doesn't really have to be if you took care of the wool socks with toe warmers. Now, one of the things is the very substrates that we walk on when we're winter hiking. It's easily to slip and fall, especially on icy conditions. How many of you have yak tracks? Shit, you guys know what you're doing. So those of you who don't know what yak tracks are, they're basically like springs on rubber you stretch over your shoes, and that can give you some stability. It's better than your shoes. If you're on a sheet of ice, I use these guys, which are Catula spikes. Now there's all different kinds. They're just like tire chains for your feet. You know, you stretch them on, they go over, but it's a chain with spikes in it. You don't want to put these on when you're leaving your house, when you're walking across your wooden floor. You don't, yeah, you will definitely not be happy. But when you have them on your feet, when you're out venturing around, you have a lot more grip and confidence. You're not going to slip and fall. Let's say you're climbing a big cane that's all ice. Go right up it with those things. So that's one of my big go-to guys. I always have that in my pack. Gloves or mittens, waterproof. One of the problems that I've had over the years, now I take pictures a lot when I'm out there, obviously, is sometimes my hands will get wet. And if I try, especially when it's really cold, if my hand's wet, I can't get it back in my glove. There's too much resistance. But if you have a mitten, your hand will slip right in the mitten. Now I use gloves now because I am dealing with camera things that are kind of like this. You know, you can get these at, I think, not Menards, but Farmers League, yeah. And also, oh good, I didn't put it on here. Okay, so the next slide will have it. But cold hands are another thing that make things unbearable for people. So keep your hands warm and dry, that's one of them. Good hat, scarf, or neck gaiter. You'll see I'll have a neck gaiter on in one of the other scenes. I forgot to bring my neck gaiter. But the scarf does the same thing. It's to cover your face. When a lot of times when we're going, and this is one of the things we forget about, when we're walking, it says, that doesn't seem windy at all. Well, when you get out a couple of miles and you turn around and come back, the wind's like right in your face, and you're already like cold. It's like, Jesus, you know, what was I thinking? But if you have the neck gaiter, you can pull it up, the scarf, you put it around you. I get a little hot with the neck gaiter on. It doesn't matter how far I'm going or how cold it is, I still get hot. And so I can take that off and vent. Sunglasses. Sunglasses are an important thing. I don't use them all the time, but I have them. See, that's one of the keys about winter hiking. You kind of take things with you just because if you need it, you don't have it, you're singing a different tune. So sunglasses, and we'll talk more about that. These are the preparations. Before we go out, figure out where you want to go, find out what conditions are going to be. You know, this isn't like we're crossing the ocean or anything, but we are going out. We want to know if there's more snow coming or a deep freeze or a polar vortex. Determine about how long you want to be out. Take a snack pack. Water, tea, cocoa. I always do. I put it right in my regular pack. A lot of this stuff is from experience. Take a phone, okay, you'll take your phone, but if it's cold, it'll die right away in the cold. Okay, portable charger and cable. Trekking poles like these. I got two here. It's good to have two trekking poles more than one. It gives you balance. It's got this little tip on here. Now, there's a cap that goes on here for like summertime. You don't really need this like this in the summer, but in the winter you want it like this. It's got a little basket on that's to keep you from going deep in the mud and snow. It doesn't help much, but so that one I took it off. But it's good to maintain balance. It's a great arm workout too. You know, if you're going up a cane or a hill or something, or coming down, it stabilizes you a bit more. And you can poke things with them, which is really nice. You can keep the squirrels away from coming after your snacks. And this is the other thing, the hand muff. This is kind of what I was talking about with your hands, keeping your hands dry. This is something that I use all the time, even if I don't really use it. They used to have these more, I think, back in the 50s for ice skaters and things like that. The women would stand there, they had little bonbons on, didn't they, ladies? But this is invaluable to me. When my hands get really wet, I can't get them back in my gloves. I put my hands in here and instantly they're warm. Instantly they're warm. Now, I can take the next thing, and this is an electronic heater. So this can be recharged over and over and over again. It's got 3 different settings. It heats up right away, and I can either hang on to it, it's on, I want it off, or I can put it in a little pocket right here and zip it shut, and it keeps this whole thing warmer. Now, I put my phone in here, I put my charger in here, and that way my phone doesn't die. And I have extra. I have extra. So always take an extra. So I have extra hand warmers. I just click this. The nice thing about hand warmers, the electronic ones, is they will charge your phone too. So when in doubt, you need to charge your phone because it just went dead because it got too cold. You got a power source. Now, and these are the second things, spare hot hands. So they have the chemical hot hands like the toe warmers. But I like the old days stuff. I like the oldies. So how many? I can tell you guys know what this is. How many of you guys know what this is? Everybody see it okay? You guys never seen this before? You have. I know you have. I'm sure you have. This is an old-time hand warmer. So you fill this up with lighter fluid. Take that off. Fill it up with lighter fluid. Put the top back on. Light it. And then it'll start heating by itself. You put the top on, you put it in a little pouch, and it'll stay hot for 12 hours. 12 hours. I can put that in here. I mean, it's warm when I'm home after I use it all day. I have about 3 or 4 of these. This is an antique. This is so old. This hole was to light your cigarette. Right here, you just light your cigarette with it. And these are from the 50s. This is actually an antique an old friend gave me. But there are newer ones. I know you can get them at Ace Hardware. We sell them over there. Like I said, I just keep them in the warmer because this battery won't last forever, but this will last 12 hours. And it gets hot, trust me. And then I can keep little snacks in here too. But also communicate your whereabouts with others when you'll be done. As a matter of fact, probably call somebody once you get back to your car to let them know you got safe. One of the things about hiking outside, if you try new places, you don't always know where you are. And that's what I want to encourage a lot of folks to do is try new places you've never been before. And turn around anytime. A successful hike is not measured by how far you go. I learned that in mountain climbing. They say a successful ascent does not mean you summit, it means you lived to make it back down to try again later. So, but what it's really about is spending time in nature to disengage with the world of man and engage in the world of nature and feel that calmness that it has and its healing property to soothe us in troubling times. See. Oh, there it is. This is the net gator. This is the net gator. And see, I have all these layers. That's that jacket right there. It's blocking the wind. This is probably about 25 below out here on this day that this was taken. I don't have sunglasses on because I crossed the prairie into the woods. And that's the cool part. That's the fun part. Because I literally trudged through the prairie to make it to the woods. And once I'm in the woods, it's a different world. I'm not hit by the wind. I'm a leaf from the wind. I can do things. I can take clothes off. I can relax and be just in the woods. But we need to be aware of hypothermia. Hypothermia, we start to feel lost. We feel disengaged, confused. A lot of people with hypothermia think the coldness in their hands is like their hands are on fire. They think that. Beware of frostbite. Frostbite happens when your skin's exposed for a certain amount of time, maybe 15 minutes in 0-degree weather, I think it would do it. So don't have too much exposed skin. Surroundings, don't get lost. Pay attention to where you're at. If it's a new place, pay attention to where you're at. Like the last thing said, don't be afraid to turn around. Have situational awareness. Situational awareness, I don't know, if somebody's sneaking up and back, I mean, I don't know. It's just one of the things that happened. One day I was in Tech Woods, Tecawalitha Woods, and I was hiking through the woods, and I was going up and down ravines, and I had a trekking pole, and I'm digging around in the snow, and I'm looking for frozen fungi underneath the leaves, and it's just, I know I'm weird, but it's woodcomber stuff, and I saw a deer, maybe 20 yards away, and I'm like, oh, look at that deer, yeah, okay. So I'm out here, and I just keep doing what I'm doing. It's almost like I'm foraging. And then I look over, and the deer's over here now. I'm like, how'd that deer get over there? Well, I'm not going to worry about it. And I went on a little bit more. And then the deer was right in front of me. And I'm like, this deer. And then I look over, and that deer's still there, and that deer's still there. And I turn around, and a whole herd of deer. I'm in a whole herd of deer. And they're just coming up around me. I was, if those would have been people, I probably would have been dead. Thank God they were deer, and once again, I blended in so serenely with nature, and I was doing just what they were doing. They thought nothing about me. I was like a squirrel with them. And when nature accepts you like that, it's a beautiful feeling. It really is. So it was wonderful. Ice, we talked a little bit about that. That's what the yak tracks and patula spikes are for. I also use snowshoes. How many of you guys have snowshoed before? Okay, yep. Snowshoes are another thing. It's not always what people think it is, but especially in deep snow, you think you're just going to walk right on top of it? No. No, sometimes you go down. Stay on the trail, especially if it's a place you don't know very well. You don't want to get lost, unless you got a lot of snacks and you're really warm. Stay on the trail. Snow blindness. This is something that can happen if you're hiking a prairie. I don't spend a lot of times hiking prairies. There's still a lot of cool things to see. You see shrews, more rodents in there, but sometimes you'll see neat things like a hawk dust-off. I call them a hawk dust-off. You'll see a really weird pattern on the snow, like where the wings came down, like They caught a mouse, they caught a rabbit, they caught something. That's pretty cool to see. But if the sun's shining and you're hiking around and that sunlight's bouncing off that snow, it takes away some of your sight and you can become snowblind. It's not permanent, but that's the only time I wear sunglasses. And as you people know, during COVID, if you had a mask on, you had glasses, they'd fog up right away. The same thing happens. It's worse. It's worse when you're out here doing this. You can try ski goggles and stuff, but they still fog up. It's almost like you need a stormtrooper helmet, you know. But another thing why I don't like wearing sunglasses all the time, because it impedes my vision of seeing things in the color that they really are, and that's what I want to do. I want to see that the way that hawk looks, or that blue jay, and they're all over the place. Where do we go? Where can we go? All these pictures, by the way, are taken in Kane County. All these pictures are in Kane County. You can go around the block just to get out, to get in the element, to get in the cold air, a local park. It doesn't have to be someplace fancy. A field, a bike path, nature center, nature preserve, forest preserve, state park. We have all these things nearby that we can check out. And a lot of this is a lot of land. So winter hiking in our area, this is just in Elgin. This is just in Elgin alone. We got, and this isn't even everything. I'm like, that's too much stuff. We probably have over 2,000 acres just in the Elgin area of which to hike. And that's a lot. You have Bluff Springs Fence, but you gotta be careful over there, because they close it. It's in the back of the cemetery. It's a beautiful 100-acre nature preserve. Nature preserve meaning it has more protection than a forest preserve. And it's a big glacial cane. It's where the glacier came years ago and dropped all its rock in a big hill, just like an hourglass. And that's why before it was protected, it was a gravel pit. You just scrape that stuff right off the top. But it's a beautiful fen where water comes out of the ground all year round at 52 degrees and works its way down into Poplar Creek that makes its way down into the Fox River. Trail Park, same thing. I love Trail Park. It's another fence. It's on a slope. It can be a slippery slope too if you're hiking. So Catula spikes, I would definitely recommend hiking there. Once again, water runs all year round. The only reason I don't like Trail Park, well, I mean, I like it. What I don't like is it's right by 90. It's a little loud. Tyler Creek and Voyager Landing. These are both on the west side. The first two are on the east side of Elgin. These are on the west side. Tyler Creek was the 4th forest preserve in Kane County back in the day. So it's one of the oldest. It's probably the oldest. It is the oldest forest preserve we have in the county. Tyler Creek is more like a ravine, a big ravine going down to Tyler Creek, which goes into the river. And Voyager Landing, it's basically a strip along the river. But it's one of my places because that's where I jump on the ice to hike. Beagles Forest Preserve is pretty new, but it's right in the middle of the west side of town. You can hike this whole area. It's mostly prairie, but it's got some woods on the south side of it you can kind of explore a little bit. And the nice thing is you can be at home in a couple of minutes from there. Not those of you who are fortunate enough to live out by Burnage, but us common folk that live in town can appreciate this. And plus, you know, you're right by Paul's Restaurant. You can stop and have a hot cocoa afterwards. But it's an open space that's good to see nature and be out in that element for a time being. One of Burnage Forest Preserve, you know, some people live around, there's Burnage Forest Preserve and Paul Wolf. Together they have over 700 acres of stuff to walk around and see. That's one of my go-to places because a lot of times when I'm out, I want to get to the nearest place when it's snowing and the weather's good, because I don't want to drive in a bunch of bad weather all the way down Randall Road that goes to someplace in southern Kane County. I want this. This is our backyard, so that's a beautiful place to go. Hawthorne Hill's another gem we have in this town. How many of you guys have been to Hawthorne Hill? I know you guys have. Some. Okay, great place to walk around. A little noisy in the front, but once you cross Brookside Drive and get in those woods and walk around, there's deer in there, there's owls, there's woodpeckers, there's all kinds of stuff in there. So it's a real wonderful place to go. That's, you know, I hike through there sometimes and go to the Culinary Fox Cafe and have a sandwich and hike back there. It's great. Fitchy Creek and Otter Creek. Fitchy Creek, there's two entrances to that. I like Fitchy Creek, but once again, you have to walk through a lot of prairie to get through the woodland area. So you have to really prepare for that wind hitting you in the face and coming back to your car, you might get it too. And Otter Creek is kind of the same thing, but not quite as big. Now there's Kane County area attached to this that don't have trails that you can look at on the map and just, if you want, just start going into them. That's what exploring in the winter time is all about. You can get to it. But that's a lot of land just in Elgin for us to get around it. Now, these are my favorites. Burnett Paul Wolf. I'm not putting these in any order, just because I don't want to see you all at my favorites. They're mixed. But Burnage, like I said, over 700 acres of canes and trails and tons of prairie. I believe there's over 9 miles of walking trails out there. People do a lot of cross-country skiing. It's a great place to snowshoe. And you could spend a few days here and probably not hike everything there. John Doerr and Tekakwitha Woods are also wonderful places because they're connected by the Fox River Bike Trail Bridge. And they're different ecosystems, kind of. They're both riparian forests, but John Doerr used to be like a gravel pit once a long time ago. And it's got some historical significance from the Black Hawk War. Some soldiers dying there, a couple of guys, unknown soldiers, they're buried out there. It's hallowed ground. This is a place where prickly pear cactus grows it. And in the back there, it almost reminds me of like Sedona or places like that. It's got that feel, that deserty feel. A lot of eastern red cedars growing out there, some aspen, which John Doerr didn't like them very much, but I sure did. And then if you take the bike bridge across the river, Tekakwitha is just a ravine side of the river. That's the one picture I showed you with the trees that the sun was coming through. That was Tekakwitha. And there's a lot of history behind that as well. But you can hike there and see all kinds of stuff. That's where some of the owl pictures came from. Red-headed woodpeckers, pileated woodpeckers are out there. Either way, it's a different topography than John Doerr. So you get a twofer with this one. Fitchy Creek, we already talked a little bit about that. Pingree Grove. Pingree Grove is like Fitchy Creek a little bit. You can walk maybe a couple miles around the trail there, but on the far, I think it's north side of it, there's a wooded place. And there used to be great horned owls. I had some nests there, a great horned owl's nest there. But there's coyote dens out there. There's a lot of cool stuff to see in wintertime, but there's coyote dens out there. I wouldn't suggest going to look for them, but I know where they're at. Norris Woods in St. Charles. Has anybody been there? Been there? Yeah, okay. It's a beautiful woods that you can actually invite you to walk right into the woods. And it's got things there that you normally don't see too many places. But if you go into the woods and just stand still for a little bit, there's a good chance some deer are going to walk by you, or you see a coyote run by or something. If you just want to stand there and meditate for a little bit. I've been out there typing on my phone. Don't do that either. Don't do it. But sometimes I just have to take a text and send one out, and just that noise would bring squirrels like walking right up to me. They think I'm like eating a nut or something. Pratt Wayne Woods. I used to go to this place all the time when I was a kid. My father and mother used to take me there. And in the wintertime, I found this something that happens there, this phenomenon. When it just gets cold, but without snow, that water freezes and this fracturing takes place of the ice. And if you never heard it, you can go on YouTube and hear it. It sounds like a laser pistol from Star Wars. And it goes, doo, doo, doo. And it's the ice fracturing and those wavelengths going down, bouncing off the water, and in that little airspace between the ice and the water, it creates this sound, and it's just so bizarre. And when I went and looked it up, I wanted, that phenomenon has to have a name. And this woman from Sweden or whatever says, I just made this huge discovery of this sound, and she put together a whole album of it, and she goes, yeah, I discovered this. I'm like you discovered lightning and rain. It's just a natural phenomenon that occurs, and if nobody's there to hear it because it's too cold to go outside, nobody can hear it. So that's, if you have an opportunity to go out to Wayne Woods and hang out at the lagoons, if the ponds are frozen, you might hear that if there's no snow. I'm sure it happens on the Fox River, I just don't hear it. Dick Young, this is, now we're getting out to Batavia. That's where Nelson Lake is. It's a beautiful area to walk around in. It's got little woods to go into, but it's mostly open prairie. The funny thing about this place is it used to be like a peat bog. And John Doerr himself used to haul peat out of there. Isn't that funny? I'm laughing inside. Johnson's Mound. It's another giant glacial cane that we have. It's a gem in the throughout the year, but even in wintertime, it's worth going out there and familiarizing yourself with this place, because when the spring comes, you definitely want to be out here and see the wildflowers. It's quite a show. Raceway Woods in Carpentersville, that's just a cool place to go. For those of you who haven't been there yet, it's an old racetrack that was kind of converted into a forest preserve. It was converted into a forest preserve. It's still being worked on to remove invasive plants and put in native stuff, but it's like its own different world out there. In the winter, it's more magical. And the last one I'm going to talk about here is one of my favorite ones, is Freeman Kane, Camp Tomo Chichi out in Gilbert's. It's on one side, on the south side of the road, is where the camp is, and that's where I hike. That's where I hike, and you go up a cane, you go around the cane, you come through the woods. There's plenty of places to go, but it's just a spectacular hike. Across the street is mostly prairie, and you can walk the prairie. You can walk prairie so you're blue in the face, but I'm telling you what, it is windy and your face does get cold. So I prefer, if I have to go through the prairie, it's to get to the woods. And this, in Kane County Forest Preserves, is how much land they have. And I don't even think that's accurate. I think there's more than that. 22,000 acres and 82 forest preserves. Find your favorite in all that. There is a lot to explore in Kane County, and a lot of land. If you're interested, if you go to the site, kaneforest.com, you can see an interactive map with all the sites. It tells you how to get to it, how much acres they have, what their amenities are. Usually most Kane County forest preserves have bathrooms you can use, maybe a shelter. Some are even heated bathrooms. Fabian and Tyler Creek both have heated bathrooms. Anyways, I like the shelters too. The shelters are good. The shelters at Burnage, you can actually have a fire there. Used to be able to do that at John Doerr, but they tore down they wrecked it. So I'll use the shelter sometimes to take a rest, especially out at Burnage. I'll probably hike a couple of miles and come up by the campground and use their shelter. Just to sip some tea, eat some snacks. But anyways, that's a lot of land we have to mess around with. So the idea is to have fun. You know, listen, observe, feel, but to stay engaged. Stay engaged with nature. You know, disengage in the world of man, engage in the world of nature. And that's going to trigger endorphins and make us feel good for a time. Like we really accomplished something during the day. Somebody said, "What'd you do all day?" I said, "I went out hiking." They said, "But it's so cold." I don't care. It was a good time. So I'd like to close with this, partially. This Albert Camus, in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. Invincible summer. And, you know, I switched that around a lot. I switched it to when I'm in July and sweating my tail off out in the woods doing work. I said, in the midst of summer, I find within me an invincible winter. But I read that and I wanted to put it more in context. So I want to read the whole thing that Camus is saying here. This is only a part of it. Let me find it. Let me find it in my notes here. In the midst of hate, I found there was within me an invincible love. In the midst of tears, I found there was within me an invincible smile. In the midst of chaos, I found there was within me an invincible calm. I realized through it all that in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy, for it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back. Truly yours, Albert Camus. And what that says is hope and resilience can be found in the darkest of times. HIKE is more of an acronym for helping individuals keep engaged. And engaging in even these dark times is going to help us. And HIKE is my tribe. You know. So if you're feeling low in dark times, get out and hike. Prepare yourself to hike. All right, does anybody have any questions?
First, thank you for